The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Buff Sound Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. We also got one of the best teams in the NBA to talk about today. The Pistons are 7-3 in their last 10, have won 6 of their last 7. And guys, I know it's early, but the boys are undefeated in 2025. We got a lot to go over today. We're going to start off on a little bit more of a solemn note. We're going to touch on Jaden Ivey going down. We are still not sure for how long. Then we'll talk about the hot streak that the team is on, some Cade Cunningham talk because Cade has been unbelievable this season. And then maybe a trade proposition from Gabe. But let's start with this. Jaden Ivey going down with a broken fibula in his left leg. It was tough to watch. I haven't been able. I've never seen an injury like that live before on TV or in person. But when he went down, you could just tell it was different. You could hear the audible scream. You could hear that on TV. The reactions from guys like Cade, Cole Anthony, Asar Thompson kind of told it all before we knew anything. But Jaden Ivey undergoing successful surgery yesterday or the day before. So prayers out to Jaden Ivey. But Vali, you're first on my screen. What were you thinking when the injury occurred, and what do you think this means for the team moving forward?
Yeah, when the injury occurred itself, I think you could almost instantly tell how serious it was. But seeing Ivy just scream in pain on the ground was like, we won 14 games last year. That was probably the saddest sight I've seen in my Pistons fandom. Reminds me sadly of like the same vibes I had when Brandon Jennings ruptured his Achilles back in 2015 in Milwaukee that one night. Like I still remember it so vividly, and I think I'm gonna be able to say the same about this injury right here. Something about seeing a guy that just works so hard, like even Coach Biggerstaff was mentioned, like he's the last person that deserves this. Ivy's the guy that gets kicked out of shoot-arounds because he stays too long, because he wants to work on his game too hard. He's the guy that just is so devoted to his craft, and to him, he's such a I guess positive. I don't really know. It's such a passionate follower, very religious, So like, I think just to see this massive change, it's just kind of shocking. Like no one can ever predict this. No one can ever root for this. It can happen to anyone on any given night. But just to see it happen and to see all the replays and the slow-mos of it, and to see him screaming in pain, I'm genuinely thankful he's already had an operation and the timeline is solid. And it's only the fibula. It's not the fibula and the tibula. It's not any ligament damage. These are all really, although bad, encouraging signs that he'll make a full recovery, and that recovery could be less than perhaps anticipated when you first saw it. Because when you first saw it, it looked like, oh boy, there's definitely some ankle involved in there, and that could definitely shoot up. Maybe some LCL action. Definitely looked like some knee aggravation was in there. But to just hear it was just a broken fibula, is in a weird way good news. But man, I don't know. Thoughts are with Ivy right now, because I just know how much it's killing him not to be with that team every single day, every waking second, and working on his craft and working on winning basketball games with this team. I can't imagine how difficult that is for Jaden Ivey. I know how difficult it was for me in my junior year at Michigan Tigers soccer team, so I can imagine how bad it is for Jaden Ivey for the Detroit Pistons, man. I just feel for the kid. No one works as hard as he does, so it's a real shame to see his season likely end right here.
It is, and shout out to the guys for actually coming up clutch and I guess putting their emotions in the right spot and coming up with 3 big wins to start the year. But Gabe, anything to add on Jaden Ivey?
Nothing to add really. I think it does count as a bit lucky that he did only break the one bone rather than
it looked like his knee collapsed. It looked like his ankle got crushed. It looked a lot worse than I think it ended up being. And I think Ivy's one of those guys where he's like, he's what, 21, 22, the most athletic guy on the planet, perhaps, where like I think he's gonna heal faster than a normal person would. And I don't think he's done for the season. I'm gonna be honest. I think he's gonna come back before the season ends. He's gonna be reevaluated in a month. Doesn't mean he's gonna be playing then. I would assume another month or so, but I could see him suiting up the last 15 games of the season. And then we're in the playoffs, so he's got to be ready for that. Am I right?
Very true, very true. Before we move on,
And wait,
oh
one
yeah,
last
go
thing,
ahead.
real quick. It was not a dirty play. It was reckless, but when it happens so quick, you dive at the ball and then a person's right there. Like it's not like a Patrick Beverly Westbrook situation. It was all right, and you could see the remorse in his face. He was crying. Star was crying. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of emotion after that. Ivy to this point, 30 games in the season, 17 points a game, 46% from the field, 41% from deep. Free throw percentage not that great at 73%. Effective field goal percentage at 53.6%. 4.1 rebounds, 4 assists. If I know, Gabe, you already said that you don't think this is season ending, but just in case it is, I'd like to pose this question: has Jaden Ivey done enough to guarantee himself a rookie scale extension? I started with Valley last time, so I'm going to start with you first, Gabe, this time. What do you think about Jaden Ivey and that rookie extension?
All those numbers don't really pop off the page except for that 3-point shooting, 41%, and I think that's all you need to hear here. It's a yes. He's not going to get the max, I think, but he's one of those guys. I think he wants the best for the team, for his teammates. And yes, every time I see him play, I see Anthony Edwards when he just like takes those threes. And I mean, you saw it last night, like those threes Edwards take. It looks a little bit like Ivy, where it's just like that doesn't look like a good shot, and then it just goes in. Ivy has really started to shoot, and we'll see now how important he is at that two guard. We started with Wendell Moore the one game, we almost lost. Asar this game was a little bit better, but we really lack value. Mentioned this. I think we really lack another creator when Ivy's not on the court and Cade's not on the court. So yeah, just for that sake, and I just love the guy, and I think he's gonna be. He proved like last year. I wasn't sure. Like I was kind of in the boat of trading him for Levine. That sounds foolish now. I think he's shown enough to get that 4-year extension, 5-year extension, whatever it is.
I would be in the same boat. I believe Jaden Ivey has earned himself an extension. But Valley, what do you think?
Yeah, happy to extend at genuinely any value. Maybe not max, but I don't know, kind of feels weird talking about like, does he earn a max? Does he deserve a max right now? I'm I know he's committed to this organization and I'm pretty sure we're committed to him. Um, I really will quickly just speak on his character. Because that same day he broke his fibula, he goes to social media and defends Cole Anthony, asking people not to say it was a dirty play. Just speaks on his character as a person. I think the unity in this team is shown when the injury happens. We saw the same thing with Tim when he went down with that nasty head laceration. How we just build a circle around this guy and we put towels over the area. Look at a guy like Malik Beasley who just posted on his story that he loves the city, but he was at Jaden Ivey's house the day after the surgery, just hung out and played video games with him, and he said he's gonna keep doing it. Like the unity with this team, and I think that speaks volumes for how much this team cares about Jaden Ivey, which in turn is why I think, yeah, any number of years, most likely any figure, probably a little below the max is very much doable and gonna be done. We want Ivy. Ivy seems to want here. Let's make it happen. I think it's, yeah, I guess looking from a pure basketball perspective, we should probably, analyze how we look without Jaden Ivey right now. But quite frankly, I think, Gabe, like you said, it's so evident. We lack another creator, and Marcus Sasser can create, but I think he even had some of his struggles last time out, just a bit undersized. Um, when we get to our potential trade talk, I have another guy's name I want to throw in the hat. Um, but yeah, give me Give me 3, 4, 5 years, any number. I don't really care. I just want this group together, you know. I really just want this group together.
Agreed, agreed. And shout out Malik Beasley for he hasn't been a part of the core since the start. He's not like Cade as he I watched Ivy
Might
cover.
as well have, right?
Yeah, right. But like he's here, he's supporting everybody on this team, and he's embracing the city. And it's I mean, from a grander scheme perspective, it's great to see a guy that came here that chose Detroit in free agency is actually enjoying his time here, which is incredible to say and could bode well for the future as well. But like you guys have both stated, when Jaden Ivey is not on the floor, when Kate is not on the floor, it is evident that we have no creation. And it's a struggle. I don't know how we kept the lead yesterday when Cade was off the floor, but Cade only got very little rest yesterday. Still playing with that left knee injury. So hopefully we can take some of the load off of him because we do have to replace those 17 points a game that Ivy was providing. And last night and the season, so since Ivy's gone down, we've had guys step up to that point, but we'll see what happens moving forward. But let's talk about this team because this team has been incredible, especially over the last 10 games or so. As I mentioned earlier, 7-3 in the last 10, winning 6 of the last 7. Uh, it just feels different around here. The shots are going down. Asar Thompson. Let's touch on Asar because you mentioned we started Wendell Moore. Almost lost that game. Asar starting yesterday. He was everywhere yesterday, coming up with 6 steals in the win against Minnesota. Gabe, what did you see from Asar yesterday that stood out to you?
Yeah, and he had like 5 steals in the first like 12 minutes of his playing time. Like Valley said, just abusing Gobert and just making him look old and foolish, which he kind of is. But the I just love how Asar flies. Like no matter what he does, he's out of control oftentimes when he dribbles and he passes, but when he just flies to the rim, man, K just throws him the ball and he's just there. That alley-oop off the backboard was crazy. I think Bickerstaff said it's kind of going to be a fluid spot. So depending who we play, we might start Beasley, we might start Asar, depending if we need offense or defense. But yeah, just I said last week I thought we are gonna go 2-2 this week. We almost lost that Hornets game thanks to having to play 8 versus 5 that game. But I said early in the season that we're just not a serious team. We have talent, but we just like you're not playing really. And I think that's changed. Connie made a good point. I think it was last pod where like those early disappointing losses helped us to like we understand now how to win games. We understand how to play in the clutch, how important it is not just to throw a ball away, which still happens, but way less. Um, and so like against these bad teams like the Hornets or against a good team like the Wolves, like when you have the lead, doing the right things to keep that lead. And Asar is a huge part of that where he just gets important stops. The last shot of the game, right? On was it Miles Bridges against the Hornets? Asar was in his face and just locked him up. He's not always possible to play when you need spacing out there, but just like Ivy, he's the last guy in the gym. That's what Bickerstaff said as well. Like this guy does not leave the gym, and that's just good news for us.
It really is. It really is. Asar has been decent since coming back. It's hard to imagine that we played some of the season without him because of how impactful he's been since he came back. It's just like you can't imagine this team without him. But Valley, any notes on Asar or if there's another guy that you want to highlight?
Yeah, a couple of wings, but I would love to start with the Sar. And Gabe, you mentioned it's difficult to play him sometimes with his lack of spacing, but like somehow he just seems to make it work. And I feel like it's because of his like innate nature to just know where to be. Like he's not a guy that's just gonna like stand somewhere and take up space. He's always moving on offense, let alone defense. But he's always looking for a cut. He's always because it's such a weird skill to have. I think it was Trey Kirby from No Dunks or back when it was called the Starters. He loved people who had hustle. Like it's not something like you can measure, but like or excuse me, not hustle, like backdoor cut. Excuse me. He loved people who could backdoor cut. He thought it was an underrated skill to backdoor cut. And it so is, because there's no reason everyone can't do it. But Asar's skills as a cutter, I think, make him usable when you have less spacing on that court. The jumper, I don't know. I thought for a second it was good, but then those free throws against Charlotte, 0% faith in them going in. But talk about him just flying. Like I just feel like we just need a moment to appreciate that, man. Like I don't think there's anyone in the NBA, maybe other than Amen Thompson, his twin brother, who just jumps like him. Like he just stays up there. He just floats. I heard on the broadcast yesterday, I don't know if you guys caught this. Growing up, he did ballet and
Oh yeah.
volleyball. Man, that guy would be a demon on the volleyball court. Would not want to play against him. But
No.
his
Mm-mm.
freakish athleticism, he just takes off. Gabe, you mentioned the off the backboard alley-oop. Holy crap. Like that's not an average off the backboard pass. Usually they use the backboard to cushion it. Cade threw that thing while it was still rising and with like so much speed off the glass. I do not know how he caught that, let alone just jumped and just threw it down. I loved the bucket at the end of the half that did not count, where he
Oh, yeah.
all over Gobert. And I didn't realize it the first time around. The slow-mo reaction of the Timberwolves bench is hilarious, man. They're all just in complete awe, like jaws on the floor. Like how is this guy a human? Because the way he moves, it does not seem human. He seems like an alien. Um, I guess his middle name is literally Excellency. Like it's just crazy, man. Like I can't explain his athleticism. And Gabe, again, you mentioned that like he looks a little out of control on the drive. Imagine he gets in control of that drive. All he really has to do is tighten the handle and maybe put some more weight on. Like imagine like Asar with 15 pounds more on him and a tighter handle. Like, who's stopping him from
He's
getting?
Zion.
Because if you give him even like a quarter of an inch, like just say goodbye. Like you're not catching him. Um, what a privilege it is to have him. And Amit, like you said, like how have we gone so much of this season without him? Like it just doesn't seem possible. And then like we managed to win some games without him, which is really, really impressive. But I guess like I don't know. We're 17 and 18, but I think we'd be more than a few games above 500 with the SAR. Just like how you mentioned, Gabe, like all these games we've had going on to literally the last shot. Asar's on these guys, and they're more than likely not hitting those shots, you know. Like locking up what's his name? Miles Bridges on the ugly jumper of his. And just locking people up all day. And when it comes down to it, he picks up the best player. I love when he was on Anthony Edwards yesterday. I thought him and Ron Holland and Stu did an excellent job. I'll cycle back to Ron Holland in a bit, but I mean, what do you think, man? Asar?
I love watching Asar Thompson play. Just like sometimes I take the I guess analytical hat, not analytical hat, but just watching like the game of like, oh, what action are they running? And I'll just watch. I'll just sit back. I'll just look at the screen as a whole, and then all of a sudden there's just a pass, and out of nowhere this thing just comes flying out and snatches the ball, and I'm like, what was that? It was Asar Thompson. Like the way he reads the passing lane is insane. And yesterday, um there were at least two or three times where I mean he feasted on Gobert twice, once out of the short roll, once when Gobert was stuck on the baseline. Then I think he picked on Dante DiVincenzo, who was trying to find Gobert in the middle after being trapped. But Asar shoots from the other 3 point line off of help and just took the ball away and started another fast break down to the other end. It's just such a joy to watch Asar Thompson play defense. It's just he's all his eyes are always scanning. It's like he's just got this. It's like he's got a magnet to the ball. Like he's just drawn to the ball. It's just absolutely incredible. We've touched on this pod a few times about how we enjoy his backdoor cutting. We said that when he came out of the draft, and now like I'm hoping that he can continue to stay healthy and we can continue to play him for longer stints because if we're gonna actually, I mean, you said it, Valley. We are 17 and 18. A year ago, that seemed like unfathomable. We are one game below 500. We are one game back of the 5 seed, which is crazy to me. And we'll touch
Yeah,
on.
that was crazy when you mentioned that.
What?
We are one game out of the 5 seed, which is absolutely insane. And we're on a roll right now. And we're gonna touch on it later when we do our look ahead. But we play Toronto, we play Brooklyn, we play Golden State, and we play Portland this week. 4 of those games are winnable. We've beaten LeBron. We've beaten Anthony Edwards. We can beat Steph Curry. So if the basketball gods want to shine on us and bless us for taking Jaden Ivey away from us, this could be a 7-game win streak 1 week from today, which is
And
absolutely insane. So, yeah,
I'm already getting excited about us start defending Steph Curry, man.
I am too.
He's
I
gonna
am
send him on
too.
a few pump fakes, but uh,
Yeah, but everybody does. But I know you wanted to touch on Ron Holland and a couple of the bigs, so I don't want to take up too much time. So tell me
oh,
what you're seeing from the guys.
no worries at all. I saw 6 steals by the way, in the game before last against Orlando off the bench, 5 steals. Incredible to have a guy like that. Reminds me of Dyson Daniels a little bit. Um, Ron Holland, I thought has been excellent. I think he still makes a few absolutely like boneheaded mistakes. But I think that's just because
Rookie mistakes,
he's
right?
he's literally a 19-year-old who played like 2 months of G League ball and then went to the league. Um, but you can definitely see the energy he brings. I forget who it was. I think yeah, it was Charlotte where we're just looking lethargic. He checks in the game quick, like 9-0 run, with him and Paul Reed at the center of it. Ron Holland just comes in and plays hard, like you can't guarantee him to score point. You can't really guarantee anything from him, but one thing you can is he's going to play his heart out. And I think that's just something really, really important. And that's something we've missed for a really long time. Guys that really want to have this fierce competitiveness and he takes it and he takes that opportunity. One specific instance in last night's game against Minnesota that I want to mention is when Isaiah Stewart came over to double team kind of on the wing on Anthony Edwards. It ended up going out of bounds. I think there was a few seconds left in the shot clock. And Ron Holland tells Stu and tells him to like points and like get out of here. Like I got Anthony Edwards. And I just love that. Like he's really taking that upon him to guard that best player. He really wants it. Um, the jumper looks pretty decent. Like he's making
He's
a
shooting
four.
80% from the free throw line.
Yeah, how about that? Like it's like I for this current moment in time, I'm not really worried about the progression of his jump shot. I feel like that's gonna come along. But I just wanted to give some kudos to Ron Holland. I think he just plays really, really, really fucking hard. And it almost plays into his favor that he is a rookie because I don't know, rookies just go like extra crazy, I feel like. But then again, it doesn't play in his favor. In that 8v5 we played against Charlotte, that ridiculous block he had on the baseline, all ball in that fourth quarter, which the refs called a foul. Um, Man, okay, maybe it doesn't play in his favor. That handoff he had on, was it DiVincenzo? They called an offensive foul last game. But overall, I really just wanted to take a moment to shout out Ron Holland for his work ethic. Never really guaranteed big minutes, but plays hard as hell and already seems to be progressing in his jump shooting.
And I think there was a stat that Ron Holland is actually shooting 40% on jump shots in the month of December. So the shot is coming along. And if that becomes something that we can actually rely on, it's scary. I mean, he's shooting with a lot more confidence now. He's also wearing one of those arm sleeves, and I think you only wear one of those when you feel like you can shoot. So I don't know. Maybe there's magic in it. I don't know what's going on, or maybe Fred Vincent is just continuing to work his magic on yet another NBA player. But there was a three I think in the Charlotte game where it was just I think it was Cade who thought about getting into the paint, but he just swung it to the right from the top of the key, and this dude just shot it and he buried it with confidence. And I'm like, there's no way that was Ron Holland, but it was Ron Holland. But Gabe, any notes you have on Ron Holland?
Um, Not really. I like when he drives and doesn't shoot. Um, he had the one in the corner where he dunked on. I think it was Nasrid came late in the paint and he just dunked it baseline. Other players who I think have been really good this. I mean, Stu is averaging the least points of his career, but this guy is just like he's a menace. He had that one awesome block on was it Caleb Martin, Cody Martin, one of the Martins against Hornets, and he just stuffed him. I love Stu. Still wish he'd take some more threes because I think he's also shooting 89% from the free throw line. Um,
Oh,
so I wish he'd shoot like a little more, but that's all right. Especially if I think it was you mentioned in the corner, like Stu knocks that down. It feels like almost every time he takes a corner three, it's nothing but net. Um, but Stu has been amazing. Duran has been good defensively. I didn't think I'd say that to say those words together, but he's been solid. And he also was it against the Magic where he had 8 dunks, 9 dunks.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a monster that game. So he's really starting to show like a more defensive side of the ball. I also wish he'd do a little more offensively, like especially against a team like the Hornets, where like nobody can guard him on that roster. Like just let him cook a little bit down low. He's too big and strong for most of these guys. Or against like the Nets coming up, right? JD should just destroy them. Other than that, I mean, there's one guy we haven't mentioned, and that's our superstar on our roster.
Just
Hold
bodes to how well this team has been playing that we
Hold
went
on.
this far into the pod and have not mentioned a guy named Cade Cunningham. But go ahead.
One sec. One sec. Before we get to Cade, I would like to say, did you guys see that Paul Reed stat?
No,
He now has the second longest ever streak of consecutive games with 2 or more steals and 1 or more blocks in Detroit Pistons franchise history.
dang. Well, he didn't get to do that last night, so
The streak ended last night, unfortunately. He did pick up a steal though.
yeah,
And
okay.
I feel like Dern had a couple of swipes on a ball handler that was exactly like Paul Reed, so maybe he's learning from him.
Learn a few things. Also, shout out Tim Hardaway. He he's starting to hit some shots. He has a little bit of in between game. Those floaters, I think, was against Charlotte as well. Kind of kept us in that game. And then his charges. Seems like he always takes a charge at the perfect time. The charge master. I love having him on the team as well.
Yeah, haven't had a guy like that since Blake Griffin was here. But two things I want to touch on, and I know Vali wants to touch on Malik a little bit. Jalen Duren's energy has been absolutely insane. Helped us pick it up a little bit in that Charlotte game. Tobias Harris even touched on it, screaming after dunk, screaming after rebounds. Just
Shout out Tobias Harris as well.
Tobias Harris as well, coming up clutch the last couple of games with Jaden Ivey being out. But it hopefully he can continue to play at this kind of level. He's been absurdly hot the last few games. But Valley, I kick it over to you to talk about Malik a little bit.
Yeah, I mean Malik, like the rest of the gang, deserves. We've won not just 7 of our last 10. I mean, I just checked 8 of the last 11. How about that, dude? Incredible, man. And I think you can just go up and down this roster right now and give everyone their kudos. And like we've been saying all year, Malik Beasley is one of those guys too. He seemed like he was in a little funk for a couple of games, but still when he was out there, he's still a threat. And then he's never going to stop shooting. When you see his first shot, a 2 game slump, comes into the game versus Minnesota, his first shot attempt is a sidestep three in Anthony Edwards' face. Like the confidence of this kid, and of course he makes it.
He's taken the most threes per game of his career.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He's taken over 9 a game.
That's pretty insane. I love it though. I mean, we need shooting in it. Quick feel good story. My good buddy Jacob was at the game, sitting at a seat. Malik Beasley was checking in and it was quiet. And he yells at Malik Beasley to give him a shimmy. And Malik Beasley, being the charismatic gentleman he is, turns around and says, "I got you. How many you want?" And then my buddy Jacob hits him and said, "Give me 2." Of course, Malik Beasley would hit a 3, and then he kept his promise, pointed at Jacob, and hit a shimmy. Man, this guy's just for the team, for the city. Later that night, posting on his story, that he just loves the city. And like I mentioned earlier, he's literally been at Jaden Ivey's house, as he's in his post surgery and just playing video games with him. Like what this guy brings to the organization is just it I don't even know how to put it into words. We urgently need to re-sign this man. I don't care if it shoots
Yeah.
the cliff.
We have the cap space.
He needs to be a part of this team. The Trajan Langdon cannot let this man walk in free agency. He cannot let this man enter free agency. I think this needs to be done before whenever the deadline is in February. Malik
He's
Beasley,
also the only guy on our roster with a positive plus minus.
really, also very interesting. I there's just no way Malik isn't getting an extension here. And like I said, you can go up and down this entire roster and just say, like, great job, guys. We've won 8 of our last 11. We're a game off of 500. What is it? I'm a game off of the 5th seed.
A game off of the 5th seed.
This is a team that won 14 games last year. Like every single person, like I know we're 35 games into this. Like take a bow. Like give yourself a round of applause. This has been the most exciting year of Pistons basketball since the 3 quarters of the year we had a healthy Blake Griffin. Like this is this is incredible. Like this is everything we've ever wanted. Like,
It also doesn't hurt that the Lions are playing the Vikings today and the
oh
Pistons
yeah.
are playing Minnesota yesterday. I got to the game yesterday, and guys, you won't believe this. I forgot what this was. There was a line to get into the arena. I was late to tip off because we got there
Oh,
at 6:52, and it took me 18 minutes to get inside the building.
it was loud in there.
It was loud in there. It was crazy. It's nice to see Pistons basketball kind of returning. And JB Bickerstaff said in his introductory press conference, by February, March, you're gonna notice the identity of this team and you're gonna enjoy watching Pistons basketball again. We're not even there yet. And we're seeing the identity of this team,
Yeah.
enjoying watching Pistons basketball.
Really quick before we get to Cade.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone. Shout out to Tobias Harris, man. Doing more than just being a veteran presence right now. How about 24-10 in that win against Charlotte? Again, really excellent. Against Orlando, he had 17 on 7 for 9. Despite some foul trouble last time out. Played just really solid. The three-point shot looks better, which is huge for us. Really important that he's making that shot. Like what you just said, it always cycles me back to what Dwayne Casey said when we were really, really going through it. He said, everybody, like, take your shots now. Take your shots at Detroit. Take your shot at the Pistons now, because in a few years they're gonna be coming to get you. And despite the 1 year delayment, it's really exciting that it's happening now. And like, yeah, we're keeping those receipts. Like, I know you guys still don't believe in us, but like, Casey was right, and that's why he's still here. This team is coming, and we're coming together. We're doing this organically. Reminds me a little bit of the Denver Nuggets, the way we're just trying to really build this up from the ground up. Do it through our draft picks. Do it through the culture and like the people who want to be here in this city representing the team. Um, I don't know. Nothing gets me excited as a Pistons basketball game these days, guys. I'm so happy for this team right now, and I'm so happy to get into what we've been going for, what, like 40 minutes maybe, and we haven't even talked about our all-star starter on our roster and our all NBA player,
Mm-hmm.
better than Anthony Edwards.
I don't know about that. Ant's pretty knocked down. But Cade Cunningham has been absolutely incredible this season. Gabe, you've been silent for a minute. Talk to us a little bit about Cade Cunningham.
I remember before the season started, in like the interviews they do, Bickerstaff said that Cade's gonna be a superstar. The way he carries himself, the way he lifts his teammates up, the way he just plays basketball, and all that is great. And then, but you have to be able to like match Anthony Edwards. You have to be able to match KD, match LeBron when they come into the arena and drop 40. And we finally have that guy. And I don't know how many times they mentioned it last night. Blaha and Greg were like, Anthony Edwards says he doesn't want to pass. He doesn't want to get doubled. He doesn't want to pass. And then you see Cade making that right read over and over and over again. It's so nice to see that we have a guy who's going to be the best player on the floor. Yes, he has some stinkers where he just looks tired. We still win those games because he lifts his teammates up. His teammates have his back, and he has his teammates back. No play encapsulates that more against Orlando when Stu locked up Suggs for entire possession, and Cade is just standing there clapping. That's what we want. That's what we want. The entire possession. And then, of course, Stu locks him up. Man, it's just beautiful to see. And then, I mean, to be guarded by Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards and just have your way with them in the mid-range, at the rim. And that's without getting any free throws, by the way. Once he starts getting some free throw calls, this guy gets hammered. Oh man, we got ourselves a superstar here. I'm not gonna say all-star starter because people are still sleeping on him. People still don't know, but the coaches know, and the players know that this guy is the next superstar
Cade
here in the Eastern Conference.
Cade Cunningham is actually the correct pronunciation of his name. And Cade has been so solid this season that in the last game against Charlotte, he had 18, 5, and 5, and that was a down game. You give 18-5. If Killian Hayes had 18-5 and 5, we'd be like, dang, Killian, that's crazy. Also, shout out Killian Hayes dropping like 24
Mr.
points and 6 steals in the G League.
You mean Mr. Triple Double? Back to
Crazy,
back
you still
triple
know his
double?
stats.
Hey, it popped up on the feed. It's not my fault. I did not
He,
go searching for this. It
he
came to me.
posted it on his Instagram story too, and so I clicked on it, obviously, and I watched like the 6 slides of all of his highlights and read the caption.
Yeah, still PTSD from those days. But Cade Cunningham has been absolutely phenomenal this season. I agree, Gabe. I don't know. He's probably not going to get the All-Star start because he's in Detroit and we just don't get love. Cade's currently sixth in the Eastern Conference in guard voting behind Trey Young. LaMelo Ball, for some reason, has almost a million votes. I mean, he's having a phenomenal season, but uh, Cade Cunningham has been great. Valley, what do you have to say on Cade? Because, I mean, I know we say it a lot and all the time, but you can never talk too much about Cade Cunningham, can you?
No, you cannot. And pertaining to the All-Star votes, when people didn't give Cade the Rookie of the Year because his team was too bad, I'm holding those receipts as well, and I anticipate that we'll be better than the Hawks, and we're already gonna be better than them, the Hornets, and potentially the Pacers, although they're picking it up. So I'm holding those receipts and saying Cade's an All-Star because our team is better. Feels good to say. But man, when you have a guy taking 29 shots, going stride for stride with Anthony Edwards, 40 points, 9 assists robbed of the 10th assist. Off the backboard to Wasar did not count as an assist.
What?
Interestingly enough, ESPN counted the Wade to LeBron off the backboard alley-oop way back when they created that iconic photo. So what's going on there? But
Yeah, that's not fair.
not to get upset. You mentioned it, superstar. Stars don't take 29 shots that have the distribution that he has. Superstars do. Cade Cunningham went 15 for 29, 4 for 8, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line, all while just bringing it on both ends. He's really taken the challenge of being there on both ends recently, I feel like. I don't even know where to go with Cade Cunningham. He's just taking such a massive step this year. And for a moment, I was questioning, like, oh, is this knee soreness or whatever he has going on? Is it impacting him? Because he hasn't really had a big night in a couple of nights. And then he goes 46-9 on the Minnesota Timberwolves to make us win 8 of our last 11. And it's just a subtle reminder. It's like, yeah, he's him. And the way he's just in control of everything on the court, it's mind-boggling. He reminds me of LeBron James when he plays. Uh, yeah,
All right.
call me stupid, dude. Call me stupid. First play of the game goes coast to coast for a huge flush. I'm not saying he's obviously doesn't have the frame and he's not as tall and he's nowhere near as that freakishly athletic as LeBron. But I mean in the play style and that he makes every single teammate of his better. We started Wendell Moore Jr. next to him and we won a basketball game. Yeah, we played against the Hornets. But like, come on. I think that means something, and like you look at the teams this guy has played with. Anthony Edwards says, I'm 23. I don't want to pass. I don't want to be doubled. Man, deal with it, dude. This guy started next to like
He
Killian
gets
Hayes,
triple
James
teamed every
Wiseman,
possession this
and Kevin Knox, dude. Like, deal with it, dog. That's why I'm saying Cade is better than Anthony Edwards. Um, I don't really know where I'm going with this one, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but Cade Cunningham, you're the reason this is called the Buffs On Podcast. You're the reason this podcast exists, dude. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
shout out to Cade Cunningham. Shout out to his dad. He's been at the last couple of games. His mom was at the last one too.
I think his
Um,
daughter was at a couple of the games as well.
oh, Miss Riley Cunningham. Good to see.
Yes.
Um, but the sole reason why this team is in the position they're in, the sole reason why we're here speaking about this team with so much enthusiasm, and the sole reason why this team is worst case scenario, in my opinion, going to be a play-in team. And so exciting to have this caliber of player in our possession. We have not had this caliber of player in my lifetime, in my viewing experience. Yeah, Blake was fantastic, but Blake was also 29, turning 30, and obviously his career is ending soon. So to have a player of his potential, of his quality right now, of his leadership abilities, it's it's unreal. This guy is a born leader. He is the definition of a leader. He is such a great teammate. Never puts his head down. I mean, I don't even think like it's talked about in media that this team lost 28 games in a row, and you never saw Cade Cunningham put his head down. All you saw him do is say, "We're not that bad. I know we're not that bad," and he just kept getting out there. Um, I think he deserves all of his flowers, and I couldn't be more happy for him and this team, and I'm so thankful that the basketball gods were in our favor and gave us that first pick that year.
Yeah, they screwed us on Wemby, but they did bless us with Cade. Cade did say in one of his post-game press conferences that, yeah, while the 28-game losing streak was absurdly difficult, it proved to him that he could go out there every single night, give it his all, be the guy. And it's just showed him that he could actually do it in this league, and that just built his confidence. If I mean, that just shows you who this guy is. He gained confidence from a 28-game losing streak. Just think about that for a second. That's just absurdly crazy. But any other notes on Cade Cunningham before we move into some potential additions to Cade Cunningham's roster? All right, let's talk about it. Jimmy Butler has requested out of Miami. And guys, I think Jimmy Butler would be embraced by the city of Detroit. His playing style, the grit, the defense, it just screams Detroit to me. I don't know what we would have to give up, but Gabe, I feel like you have an idea of what we'd have to give up. So Gabe, talk to me. What are you trading for Jimmy Butler?
Yeah. Of course, this is from a biased Pistons fan. Miami right now, they've shut him down. So like the return for him, players like him, Levine, there's just not much of a market right now because teams are so scared of the cap space. And this guy has an
Yeah.
option, a player option next year for $50 million, which he doesn't want to take, which tells you about the contract that he wants to get over the summer. Um, Good thing for us, we have a lot of cap space. We can sign him, we can upgrade Ivy and Duran, and we'd still be good because we already have Cade on his contract as well, and we can resign Malik. Based on my rough calculations, I'm no GM, but it should theoretically work. So my deal was Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and a couple second round picks. Because I really don't think they're gonna get anything more for Jimmy. So that was my deal. Maybe you change that to a pick swap in a second, or a protected first in a second. But you know, they can check what the market is. Maybe they get Kaminga if they want Kaminga. They got to pay him as well. They lose $8 million off their salary sheet. Those two guys are solid players that would play well in Miami, and then you get a few picks. Like for me, it doesn't sound. I mean, obviously, it's bad for the Heat, but to have Jimmy Butler on this team starting at the three, just imagine like Isaiah, um, Jimmy, and Asar next to each other. Who's gonna score on that?
It's going to be a very difficult thing. The Heat also getting blown out by the Jazz by, I believe it was 36 points yesterday in Jimmy's first suspension game. And reports coming out today that Miami has not been happy at all with the offers they have received for Jimmy Butler. So, I mean, Gabe, you may say it's as a biased Piston fan, but that might be the actual realm of possibility for Jimmy Butler. Also, I also enjoy how we're doing the Tobias Jimmy Butler thing again.
Yeah,
Tobias
yeah.
over me. Uh, but we'll save that for if it actually happens. But Gabe, I mean, Valley, talk to me about what you're thinking about a Jimmy Butler trade, or if you get another name to throw into the hat.
Yeah, if the asking price is low, I'm not I'm not against a Jimmy Butler acquisition, but Pat Riley is known to be A, incredibly stubborn, and B, has already requested a star in return for Jimmy Butler, and he said that's their asking price and they don't want to budge. Apparently they're being lowballed by every single person in the league, and I think that's just going to be the reality of it. You're not getting another star for how old is Jimmy?
35.
You're not getting another star in return for Jimmy Butler at this point of his career and where his contract is. Should like some weeks and maybe months carry on and he's still not playing and you can kind of throw in a low ball offer, I'm not against it. I think it'd be so funny to see him and Toby on the same team. But overall, if there's a significant asking price that involves us in moving one of our young core pieces or a draft pick, I'm automatically out. I do not want Jimmy Butler if that's the asking price, and I don't think it's worth like disrupting this young core. If it doesn't disrupt this young core, sure. But I think it very much could. And you know how Jimmy Butler leaves situations as well. He leaves a firing trail behind him. And I think that really could impact our organization. But I have a different name in mind. And this is a guy who is a point guard, say seven hands, known as the Prez. I would love to find a way to get Malcolm Brogdon on this team. He's also a guy that has dealt with a lot of injuries in the past and can't really play the same amount of minutes as he used to anymore, which is why I think that Sasser role would be great for him, except probably playing a bit more consistently than Sasser does. But just having a safe set of hands ready and available, especially with Ivy down, I think would just be so, so important to this team. I don't think the asking price for Brogdon will be much at all. I think maybe an expiring contract in the second rounder would get you Malcolm Brogdon. I think when you're looking at it right now, a point guard is probably the first place you go to, depending on the severity and the length of Ivy's injury. Either way, I just think a point guard's the way you need to go because it's pretty evident. Coach doesn't have the most faith in Marcus Sasser, only playing 11 minutes last game. And therefore, I think just another ball handler, another source of creativity, and another veteran would be really, really good for this team.
The
Yeah.
problem is he makes 22 million this year on the expiring deal.
Oh,
So it's hard
really?
to find
Can't we just eat it though? It's expiring. Can't we just eat it? Don't we have the cap room to just take on that money?
yeah, but you like when doing a trade, you have to it has to be within a certain percentage point of like the incoming salary. So like we could trade Tim Hardaway for him, but
No.
like I'd rather keep Tim Hardaway.
Either way, I just feel like it's a guy to keep a radar on. I wouldn't want to give up
No,
Timmy.
yeah, that's a great like
100%.
I would love like a vet point guard third stringer off the bench.
100%. I mean, we need it, like Valley said, especially with Jaden out. Can't hurt at all. Cannot hurt at all. But I'm okay with an acquisition, like Valley said, as long as we don't have to give up a major part of the core or a lot of or a major first round pick. I'm fine with an acquisition of Jimmy Butler. I like I said before, I feel like he embodies the city, and I feel like he would be embraced by it. Him and Malik Beasley together, I think, would actually be kind of like a fun duo. Um, and of course, Malcolm Brogdon, I'm not going to turn that away either, especially if we don't have to give up too much. The salary is a lot to take on, but hey, you know what? You got to pay to be better. And we're talking in a spot right now where we're not like, hey, what could we get from Marvin Bagley? Could we get a first for Marvin Bagley? Is it a thing? No, we're talking about can the Pistons actually upgrade their roster to make a push for a play-in spot? This is a drastic difference from where we were 365 days ago, and I'm here for it. But any other notes on the team, and trades, any other flowers you want to give to these guys? Because guys, I don't think we've ever come on this pod after an undefeated week. So I'm gonna drink all of this in.
We did lose to the Nuggets this week.
Hey,
Yeah, let's go.
this year, you know what? We haven't lost this year.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't lost this year, so I don't think we've come on here on a 3-0 of this high. We've had a couple 3-game win streaks, but I feel like this one feels a little bit different with a chance to extend it tomorrow night against Portland, and then we face Brooklyn, then Golden State, and then we wrap up the week with Toronto. I'm gonna say we go at least 3-1 this week. If the basketball gods want to grace us again, we go 4-0. But I'm going 3-1 this week. Gabe, how are you feeling?
I think I'm gonna agree with the 3-1. Blazers, they're bad, but they're not as bad as their record shows. They've been
Big man yesterday.
decent, yeah. So that's a potential. If we're not up for it, that's a potential loss right there. Nets stink. We should beat them. Raptors are terrible. We should beat them. And then the Warriors are good. They play in a tough Western Conference. That's why they're almost 500, but they're a really good team. But like you mentioned earlier, I want to see a star on Curry. So I'm gonna say 3-1 as well.
I love it. Valley, how we feeling?
Warriors suck, man. They started out like 10-2. And Steph
Then they
missed the last
traded for
game.
Saluda.
Steph missed. I'm not sure if he's gonna be in. Um, Call me crazy. I can't wait to hop on this pod next week after another undefeated week. 4-0, baby. 4-0.
Hey, if we get a 7-game win streak going on, we gotta do something special. But any other
Yeah.
notes on this team?
I don't know off the top of your head if you guys know, have we hit a win streak larger than 7? I remember being 5-23, cutting Josh Smith,
Oh
and
yeah,
Jennings led us to 7 straight wins, and I don't think
uh,
we've eclipsed that
yeah.
number since.
That's called the Anthony Tolliver effect, right?
Two Pistons. I wish off the top of your head, two Pistons you wish could have played together. Tim Hardaway, Anthony Tolliver, the Charge Crew.
Blake Griffin and Tim Hardaway Jr. That would have been fun too.
Anthony Tolliver was, if he played like in this era, he'd be putting up threes like crazy. He would actually be nice on this team.
Just born a little too soon, AT. I'm going 4-0, guys. I think we'll show out and we're gonna crush Chauncey. I'm sorry, Chauncey. I know it's your bobblehead night too. Uh,
Hey,
Brooklyn, we should destroy. Toronto, we should destroy. And Golden State, quite frankly, we should beat. Even after that, guys, we go to New York. What did we do last time in New York? We showed out. We balled out.
New York is
Indiana
good.
next. Give me Indiana. And then we got the Suns after that. We already beat them. The sky's the limit right now, guys.
the
We're not
Valley's already at like a 10-game win streak with this going on right now. This is
10.
crazy.
Try like 15.
15. All right, well, we're gonna be 15 and first in the Eastern Conference by the time we hop on a pod the next time.
And I
But
called
hey, Valley called it. But hey, Detroit, we're feeling good. The Lions play the Vikings tonight. We're about to take the division. The Pistons are on the rise. They're about to take at least the 5 seed, maybe even the first seed if you ask our very own Valley. But until next time, Detroit, because I don't think it's ever been more true on this podcast, throw the Buffs on, Detroit, because the future is bright.